From evil puppets trying to consume your soul in an imaginary world, to a creepy clown that's always watching from the background. Here are 5 of the darkest characters in Gumball, starting with the puppets. Gumball and Darwin are cleaning out the attic, getting ready for a garage sale. They're packing away old toys, including their broken toys. While sorting, Darwin stumbles across a box of puppets, but Gumball says they are too old for dolls and forces Darwin to grow up and just give them away. But the second Gumball leaves, Darwin pulls the puppets out to play again. They talk, joke, and act like Darwin's long-lost best friends. They remind him that he promised to never leave them again, and Darwin agrees. Darwin starts taking the puppets everywhere. Even when he goes to the bathroom, the puppets stay on his hands. Yeah, even through that. On the bus, one puppet flirts with Rocky the driver, causing a crash. At home, Gumball eventually figures out what's going on, and the puppets start insulting him. They argue, and the puppets fight with each other, which leads to Gumball eventually ripping them off Darwin's hands. We then cut to the front of the house where Gumball tries to throw them out, but Darwin begs him not to, pretending the puppets were still talking and claiming they had their own lives. But Gumball isn't fooled. He dumps them in the trash, and Darwin walks away sad. That night, things get creepy. The puppets come back to life on their own. Frank and Howdy pull themselves out of the trash and go looking for Darwin. They break into the house, find Gumball's gaming console, and smash it. Gumball is heartbroken. But the real shock, the puppets are now fully alive. They reveal Darwin made a promise to never abandon them, and now they want Gumball too. The puppets suck Gumball and Darwin into their creepy puppet world and challenge Gumball to come after him. Inside this world, everything is made of puppets and old memories. There's a screaming sun, a sad tree, a high-five guy, and even a dog with a keyboard. It's all stuff they used to imagine when they were kids. Eventually, Gumball finds Darwin trapped in a weird puppet house, where Frank and Howdy, the first 2 puppets, sing a super creepy song called The Fun Will Never End. They've brainwashed Darwin, and now they want Gumball too. Grady, who is the 3rd puppet, reveals it was all a trap from the start. The puppets grow huge and prepare to force Gumball and Darwin to play forever. But Darwin finds a loose string in his arm and pulls it, and Gumball and Darwin escape. The whole puppet world begins to fall apart, pulling more strings and literally unraveling the puppets. Everything explodes because, yeah, it was imaginary after all. Back in the real world, Nicole is setting up the garage sale, and Billy, the innocent neighborhood kid, finds the puppets in a box and thinks they're cool. But the moment he picks them up, Grady attacks him from behind and starts beating him up. Completely uncalled for crash out. So, needless to say that the idea that these puppets might toy with you for an eternity is terrifying. But this next character brings the horror to another level. The amazing world of Gumball's very own clown. And who, you may be asking? Well, he's a character that manages to sneak himself into the background of many episodes, and goes unnoticed by a lot of longtime fans. He first appears in The Procrastinators as a mailman, and then finds a way to sneak himself into a few other cameos. But one thing for certain is that he is an all-time creepy character. There's a few things we know about him, one being that he is a ghoul, which was revealed to us in the episode The Ghouls, believe it or not. We know that he sometimes works as a mailman and is voiced by Mick Graves as well. Mick Graves is Banana Joe. So we know very little about him for sure, but there are a few theories around him. For example, a lot of people believe he is trying to kidnap Gumball and Darwin, but because we the audience are watching, he can't. Others believe he came from the void and has a sort of vendetta against Gumball and Darwin, much like Rob, while the more likely scenario is that he's just a background gag character. And now I have a theory that is, in all honesty, a bit of a reach, but here we go. He looks shockingly similar to this puppet here. The hat, the bow tie, the eyes, but most importantly, they have an identical head of hair. Now, the real seller to this top level reach is that Darwin made a promise to never leave the puppets, and the puppets obviously have some strange abilities, and now this clown just keeps appearing in the background. But you know what's worse than a creepy clown lurking in the shadows? Pure weaponized happiness. The Joy Virus, although arguably not a character in itself, is still one of the most terrifying things in this entire series. Now this episode starts off already a little weird. We get the time, which is unlike anything we've really got in the show before. Then we get Gumball and Darwin walking downstairs like they wished they never even woke up in the first place. They throw food straight in their faces, and it becomes apparent that they have a serious case of the Mondays. In typical Gumball fashion, our big oaf, the pink rabbit, offers them a hug, saying it will make them much happier. After trying to reject this, they eventually oblige, and it works. A little too well. Fast forward to school. Gumball and Darwin are walking through the halls, but something's weird. They're smiling smiling. They're even clicking their heels. Miss Simeon notices this and is horrified. How dare someone be happy on a Monday? She's a serious grouch, and I had a few teachers like that at my school, so I honestly get it. She's confused and suspicious. In class, Miss Simeon keeps a close eye on them. Gumball sings his feelings, auto-tuned of course, and Darwin joins in. Miss Simeon's patience explodes like a bomb. She storms into Principal Brown's office, screaming about a contagious disease, an outbreak of joy. Brown thinks she's being dramatic, and she disagrees and says she'll prove it. She starts filming Gumball and Darwin like she's a real scientist or something. She tries to get them to stop smiling, but Gumball's face literally snaps off and spins around. He tries everything, even flipping his mouth upside down, but nothing works. Their faces keep bouncing back into giant grins. Miss Simeon insists this is proof that they have contracted some kind of virus. She shines flashlights in their eyes, records their creepy dilated pupils, and ignores Nurse Joanne, who tells her she's being ridiculous. Eventually, Gumball and Darwin are quarantined, giggling like gremlins. They cough up sparkles, hearts, and rainbows and pass out. Their heart monitor turns into a cheery cartoon and plays a jingle. Then things take a turn for the worse. Gumball and Darwin wake up as huggers, quote unquote. They pounce on Principal Brown and infect him with the joy. Brown laughs like a maniac and joins their hug parade. Miss Simeon slams Miss Markham into the joy mob to save herself, but it doesn't help. Soon it starts to spread like a wildfire. Alan, Bobbit, Rocky, Terry, Masami, Leslie, even Penny gets infected. People are being tackled by giggling rainbow monsters. Bobbit shorts out the power. Carmen pops like a balloon full of glitter, and Tobias, he wants to get infected but gets ignored. Miss Simeon finally finds the cure by accident. Sad classical music. Moonlight Sonata plays, and it cures Principal Brown instantly. She tries sneaking through the halls, pretending to be infected, smiling awkwardly and yelling rainbows. But then she breaks character to fix Banana Joe's dress code and blows her cover. Now every infected student is chasing her. She escapes Tina's tiny arms, smacks Tobias with his own locker because he's too colorful, and makes it to the PA system just in time. But guess who's waiting there? Gumball and Darwin, of course, and she's terrified. We then cut straight to the end, where Miss Simeon, completely defeated, now infected and giggling on the floor, delivers one last message to the camera. This story came to a happy ending. Safe to say, this was obviously meant to be a PG play on a zombie outbreak, but in some senses, it's honestly a bit scarier than that. But this next character, oh well, they're truly evil. For a show filled with sentient donuts and talking bananas, Gumball somehow gave us one of the most terrifying characters in modern animation, Cuddles, a turtle so evil even horror movies would swipe left. Cuddles was first introduced in the episode The Puppy. Gumball and Darwin beg their parents for a dog, and instead of getting something cute and fluffy, they get this. A silent, motionless turtle with unblinking eyes and a look that screams, "You'll never sleep again." They name it Cuddles, which is kind of like naming a chainsaw Snuggles. It just makes it worse. And at first, it seems harmless. They try feeding it, bonding with it, but all it does is destroy. It turns their room into a post-apocalyptic wasteland, bites action figures' heads off, and genuinely tries to end Gumball. It's like the thing was designed to break spirits and chew through action figures. But it doesn't stop there. If The Puppy was the trailer, then the next episode, The Nest, is the full-blown horror sequel. The episode starts off eerie. An old guy named Gary is looking for his cat late at night. Already a red flag. He hears breathing. Not normal breathing, like creepy demonic turtle breathing. He turns around and it's Richard Watterson, just mouth breathing into Nicole's hand. Creepy, but not the threat. Gary hears rustling under a car. He checks it out thinking it's his cat. Cute, right? Wrong. Within 30 seconds, Gary gets yoinked under a car by some unknown beast. The next morning, Gumball and Darwin find a mysterious egg under the very car Gary disappeared beside. They bring the egg home, Anais does some research, and discovers it's a turtle. Then the egg hatches, and the moment that tiny turtle takes its first steps, it immediately tries to maul Anais. Luckily, Gumball and Darwin were there, but if they hadn't, that would have been it for Anais. A little while later, the Wattersons discover the nest, and in the worst timing possible, the turtles hatch and start spreading chaos throughout the city. But here's where it gets weirdly emotional. The only way to save Elmore is to get Cuddles to leave with her babies, and just for a second, she's not a demon in a shell, she's a mother. And then she leads her army away and immediately sinks a cargo ship. Yep, still evil. Cuddles doesn't speak, she doesn't even blink, but somehow she's become one of the scariest cartoon characters ever made. She's slow, creepy, and impossible to stop. And maybe that's what makes her so terrifying. But if you thought that turtle from the nest was creepy, just wait until you remember Mrs. Robinson. Living proof that not all villains come with claws or fangs. Some come with a purse, a permanent scowl, and a complete lack of empathy. Margaret Robinson is, without question, one of the most despised characters in the amazing world of Gumball, and let's be real, she earns that title. While most of the show's cast, even its antagonists, get moments of growth or hidden charm, Miss Robinson skips all that. She's not misunderstood, she's not misguided, she's just mean. Unlike her husband, Mr. Robinson, who, despite his grumpiness, has his fair share of heartfelt or even hilarious scenes, Margaret is stuck in one gear, malicious. Where Mr. Robinson might complain about the Wattersons, but occasionally shows he actually cares, especially when Rocky's involved. Margaret doesn't even pretend to care. She exists to make life worse for everyone around her. Nowhere is that clear in this episode. The Wicked. This is where we see her at her most unhinged. She starts by manipulating wild animals into attacking people, yeah really, then nearly runs over Gumball and Darwin with her car, and just for extra chaos, swaps baby name tags at the hospital like it's some kind of prank. There's no goal, no payoff, she's just doing it for her own amusement. But it gets worse. In a moment that's supposed to test her humanity, Darwin fakes choking to see if she'll step in and help. Any normal person would panic. Margaret, she picks up a toy car and jams it into his throat, causing him to actually choke. Darwin looks at her, giving her one last chance to do the right thing. She looks him in the eye and coldly shuts the door. That's straight up evil. Thankfully, Gumball manages to save Darwin, and not once does Mrs. Robinson feel guilt or even acknowledge it. She just walks away like nothing happened. Compare that to Mr. Robinson, who at least tries to be likable sometimes. He has layers, bitterness, sure, but also vulnerability. In episodes like The Fuss or The Silence, we see him joke and even smile. Margaret, she never changes, never improves, and the craziest part, the show knows it too. So if we're talking about the most wicked character in Elmore, sorry Cuddles, the crown belongs to Margaret Robinson, the embodiment of neighborhood evil. No powers, no schemes, just raw, unapologetic cruelty in the form of a very angry grandma. And somehow, she's still roaming the streets of Elmore, so consider this your warning.